Welcome to episode 3 of Talking Collingwood with your host, Robbie D. And with me tonight, I've got one of the most fiery Collingwood supporters that I know. Age, welcome to Talking Collingwood.
Hey, Robbie, how are you, mate?
Yeah, mate. I'm going all right, mate. Like, I'm still, I don't know, we hate losing. You know what I mean? We really do. Like, I fucking hate losing, man. It ruins my
Uh,
weekend, especially on a Friday. What about you?
look, I hate Friday. Look, I hate Friday night games because, like you said, if you lose, you got the whole weekend to stew on it, um, and then you have to look for other results to try and make you happy.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that very, very shortly. But yeah, it was obviously, the result was pretty much what we expected, considering everything that happened leading up to the game. But I'll quickly just run through the final scores from that game. So it was Collingwood 15-10-100 to Brisbane's 19-10, 124. So it was a 24-point loss, 4-goal loss
Yep.
at that fucking shithole Marvel Stadium. Mate, honestly, like,
Mm,
how on earth was this game
mm.
played there, first of all? Second of all, why are we even playing home games at Marvel? That's not our home ground. And if there's a contract in the AFL that says we must play a certain amount of games at Marvel, then at least make it away games. Give North Melbourne a home game against us, or the Bulldogs, or
Yeah.
the Saints. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't want to
Yep.
fucking play at fucking Marvel. Our fans hate it. We hate going there. It is an absolute dump, a dump of a
Well,
place.
even Jack Riewoldt's retirement, he like as a joke, but it was a bit of tongue in cheek, but he sort of said just burned his joint down. Like, and I remember Dimma said that in his press conference. I think they lost to someone there.
Yeah.
I think it was last year and they were under the pump, but I reckon they mean it. It's a bit of sarcasm, but where there's smoke, there's fire, and I don't think players enjoy playing there. To be honest, I just
Oh,
don't think so. I mean, look, Brisbane were red hot last year. Collingwood was red hot last year, and they structure up the fixture to play there. Two rounds before the end of the year. I mean, I think they both know that these two teams are going to sort of do all right the year after, but they still whack them there, hoping they're going to get 50 feet, 55,000 people
well,
sell it out.
there was only 39,000
Yep.
there on Friday night, which,
Yeah. No one likes it, bro. No one likes it.
let's be honest, mate, it's an absolute schmozzle. You know
It's
what I mean?
cold. It would have been 3 degrees in there that night. I'm telling
Oh,
you.
an absolute schmozzle, mate. That's
Mm,
that's what it is. You know what I mean?
yep. Yep.
But anyway, let's just go through what happened before the game. Obviously, I obviously recorded the podcast last week with
Yep.
my guest Simone, and we just sort of previewed the game briefly, but there was some big surprises after that podcast was recorded. The next day, all of a sudden, you know, obviously we knew Moore was going to be out, but then we all of a sudden lost the Goey and Hill, and then there was
Mm,
rumors of even Johnny Noble
Noble. Yep.
not playing, and then our inclusions, our ins were obviously still side bottom. That was expected. So glad to see Mason Cox back, and we'll touch on him
Yeah.
later. And we gave a debut to Jacob Ryan, and just felt
Yep.
sorry for the youngster. Just what a terrible
Yep.
game to bring in a young player. Like, uh, you know, playing against Brisbane at Marvel with an underdone team, a depleted backline. Unfortunately, the kid was just, I think the occasion just got to him.
Mm.
Looked nervous, and I'm not judging the kid on one game.
No, absolutely not.
Give him a
No,
couple
no way.
pre-seasons. He
Yep.
needs to,
He's
yeah,
he's
he
still
needs
he
to
needs
do
to
his,
hit the gym.
he needs to hit the gym. Needs to do his time in the VFL.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, there's
I would
no
have
way
played.
on
I would have
earth.
played like Finn. I would have played McRae. I think I'm not sure if he's still injured, but I mean, throw him in the middle. Throw Chris back in the back line. In the sort of no in the Ryan position.
Yeah,
we got nothing to play for. Like, I
Well,
mean,
I totally agree. Even
you
Carmichael,
know what I mean? Even Carmichael, man.
Reef
I mean,
McInnes, he had an absolute blinder in the VFL on the
yeah,
weekend.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
I mean,
anyway, we'll run through some stats. I'll spend the next couple of minutes just running through
yeah,
some stats. So goal
yep,
kickers, Jamie Elliott kicked 3,
yep,
McStay 2, Howe kicked 2, Mychik kicked 2, and there were singles to Josh Dacos, Johnny
yep,
Noble, Jack Ginnivan, Mason Cox, Darcy Cameron, and
yep.
Scott Pendlebury.
Mm.
Just some disposals, leading disposals for Collingwood. Pendles with 31. And it wasn't just the disposals. Pendles turned back the clock. He had 12 clearances
Yeah.
and 6 tackles. His third quarter, together with Cox, like the link-up play from centre bounces, and
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
turned the whole game in that third quarter. Which, yeah, we'll touch on Cox again,
Yep.
a little bit later. Tom Mitchell had 31 possessions and
Yep.
3 clearances. He just looks slow and tired, and I'm not sure if he's
Yeah.
carrying something, but he's almost
I
a
reckon that
liability at
Corky.
yeah, he's
Yeah, that
almost a
Corky
liability
still.
at the moment, Mitchell. And you know how much I
Mm,
love Tom Mitchell. Like, I'm a big Tom
yeah.
Mitchell fan.
Yeah, man.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Josh Dacos, solid 26 possessions, kicked the goal as well. And Crisp had 24 possessions and 9 tackles. Um, and with Mason Cox, he had 25 hitouts in a
Yep.
half of football and
Yep. Yep.
14 to advantage.
Yeah, man. He
So
he
he was a colossus.
he certainly got that hunger back, you know. Like, you want to play in this team. You don't want to play in the VFL. No disrespect. You're on top of the ladder. Don't just think you're going to get a game. Like, when you do get that opportunity, man, just play. Play your role. That's the
Well,
way I look at it.
you saw what Fly said in the press conference. Like, he mentioned that he wanted to keep Mason Cox hungry.
Mm,
And
mm,
it was obviously when you see, like, Mason Cox named as a sub, you're like, what if we lost like a running player, for example,
yeah, yeah,
that we went in too tall. But in the end, if it wasn't for Mason Cox going into the midfield or like into the ruck, I'm
yep,
telling you now, we would have lost that game by 10 goals plus.
yeah,
Easy.
yeah,
And where does that leave Darcy Cameron? Like, yeah, around the ground, he improved his performance a little bit. Like, but I'm not convinced Darcy Cameron's in our best 22. I personally, from this point on, I'd go Mason Cox as the number 1 ruck and figure out who's going to be that second ruckman. All right. So if Cox goes in the ruck and Howe goes in the back line, it's either going to be McStay that will pinch hit, or do you bring back, say, a Johnson, or even a
yeah,
Kruger, and just have that third tall option. But I just think moving forward, it's very important that Mason Cox is now in the ruck permanently.
yeah. I think, Robbie, I think to be fair on Darcy Cameron, I mean, I understand what you're trying to say. I personally think that was probably his second best game, man, to be honest, of the year. I reckon that knee is probably hampering him a lot more than what we know. Um, but I think that was his second best game of the year, man. His stats were like, 17 disposals, 11 kicks, 4 marks, 1 goal.
Around the ground,
Yeah,
like I mentioned as well, like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
his performance improved around the ground.
He's
But
get. I think he's getting. I think he's getting better.
yeah, what I'm judging Cameron on is the ruck, right? He's
But
in the
he
team
only
to be
had.
a ruckman. Like,
Yeah,
that's the bottom line, right? So,
but he only had like well, how many goals were kicked all up in total?
what, against us or
No, 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 in total around. I mean,
in
the
the whole
actual
game?
game.
In the whole
Yeah,
game.
in the whole game. Well, there was
Let me just bring
30,
it up.
30 34 goals, I think, were kicked.
Let me have a look. So, yep, correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
34
so
goals. Look, it was a high
34,
scoring game.
right? And he only attended um 16 center bounces. In the center after a
Yeah.
goal. He only was in there 16 times, so
Yeah.
just over half, which sort of says they're
Well,
not sort of they're not sort of using him to after Cox sort of went in and he sort of dominated Oscar McInerney.
Yeah, McInerney is a good ruckman. Like,
He's a top
that's,
ruck. I reckon
yeah.
he's a top liner, man.
Yeah,
Straight out. I
he's a
reckon
top.
he's a
I reckon he's
gun.
in the top 3 ruckman in the
Yeah,
league, I'd
man. Yeah.
say.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But look, I'll run through some team stats. And they don't look that bad. Like, in
Yep.
retrospect, like, considering who we had out, Brisbane was expected to beat us. I still hate losing, especially to Brisbane. Like, no disrespect. Like, I know a couple Brisbane supporters who are good blokes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
their supporters on Friday night. Like, and there was a lot of them.
Mm,
I just couldn't believe the arrogance and the cockiness. Like,
mm.
um,
They've won a
you
couple
know,
games in Melbourne now, so but
they
they haven't won
haven't.
at the
This was at
G.
Marvel Stadium. Yeah, we
I
haven't played them at
understand
the
that.
G since I
I
think
understand that.
2016. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, disposals
Yeah.
335 to Collingwood, 345 to Brisbane. Kicks 194 to Collingwood, 215 to Brisbane.
Yeah.
Handballs 141 to Collingwood, 130 to Brisbane. Inside 50s, we lost that stat.
Yep.
Collingwood had
Not
147.
by much. Not by
Not by
much.
much, yeah. Collingwood had 47 inside 50s to Brisbane 55. Free kick count actually
Pretty
went
even.
pretty even, but
Yeah.
22 to Collingwood, 20 to Brisbane. I still think
It's where they pay him that
it's
counts.
where they pay him, and Brisbane got a
Yeah.
lot in their forward line.
Yeah.
Hit
We can
outs,
discuss that
we
all the
won this
time.
stat thanks to Mason Cox, 47 to 43.
Yeah.
Clearances, this
I
is just
couldn't believe that.
clearances in general were 39,
Yeah.
39 all.
Peace.
Center
Yeah.
clearances, we won them 17 to 15.
Yep. Yep.
Stoppage
They
clearances,
woke up.
yep. Stoppage clearances, we lost the stoppage clearances 22 to 24. And then the next one was contested possessions. We only lost this stat.
Yep.
It was 126 to Collingwood, 135 to Brisbane. Uncontested possessions, 191 to Collingwood and 204 to Brisbane. Turnovers. Now, this is I just want to touch on this. Even though the turnover count was very similar, like Collingwood had 58 turnovers and Brisbane had 54, Brisbane scored 82 points from our
Yeah, man.
turnovers. So
They averaged 55 a game.
So the way this game panned out, it was actually really even stats wise, but
Yep.
our defense was all over the place. And obviously in transition, when we turned the ball over, Brisbane's very skillful, fast-paced team.
Yeah,
And
man.
we don't have a matchup. Let's be honest. Like, we don't have matchups for Charlie Cameron, right? We don't
But
have
not
a
many
matchup
people
for,
do, Robbie. So
we don't have a matchup for Hipwood, and Danaher always kills us, right? Quaynard had Cameron, and I was just watching footage or like just highlights of the game just before we went on air.
Was lost, man.
The amount of goals Brisbane kicked from just like the ball going over the top. And I'll tell you what happens, right? It's the fact that our defense pushes so high up the ground, right? And we don't win that contested ball. And then Brisbane just kept doing what they did to us in round 4. And just the defense looks a bit disjointed at the moment. I know we've got injuries there. Murphy went down as well. And then the injury. What do you think of like Jeremy Howe? Like last week, I called for him to start in the forward line, which I was happy with. He kept Andrews to 5 possessions till halftime. But I was still thinking, why aren't you in the back line? Like, surely after what happened, like. But Fly was just on the offense. He came out in the press conferences like, oh, why would we move him? He kept Andrews to 5 possessions. So like he did what he was supposed to do. He kicked 2 goals. Like, I understand that. But when you don't have more and you don't have and Murphy's out, like at that point of the game, you'd think the logical thing would be just to bring him back and sort of just get him behind the ball. But what was your thoughts on just our defense in general, and just how are you feeling right now, like going into the last game of the season? Like,
I'll start on the defense. I'll start on the defense. There's no. If you watch a game, sort of like, let's call it round. We'll just say any of the rounds where they're flying, right? Which was pretty much all year. The defense was so unified. It was just they knew what to do.
We're ranked one.
We're ranked number 1
from the Port game. From round 1 to the Port game when we beat them by 2 points. Was that
Dude,
round 19? We're ranked 1
yeah, dude,
in
the
the league.
the ball use coming out of defense, especially because of Nick Dacos. I just don't think people realize how big Nick
Oh,
Dacos is. Like,
he's unbelievable, mate.
I'm telling you now, like people think, oh, he's only 20 years old, blah blah. Mate, I'm fucking telling you that kid, he's got eyes, mate, painted at the back of his head, mate. Mate, he's kicked the weight distribution on his foot. They just kick it over those players just to break the
He
so-called
changes
zones
angles.
and
He's not scared to
changes.
like.
He's not scared, man.
Yeah,
He trusts his ability, right? But going back to the defense, I think Noble will get rested this week, and I reckon Rusco might come in. I, I
I
I
reckon that's a
reckon,
possibility as well. Yeah,
yeah, I
definitely.
think Noble just looked tired, man. He really did. Um, but you just never know what these coaches are thinking. You don't know what their KPIs are. You don't know how
Yeah,
sore they are. You don't know anything. They
yeah.
keep a really tight lip on that.
Oh,
But defense, I think, mate, you miss Moore and Murphy. Listen, you take out Andrews and Jackson Payne. Is it Jackson Payne that plays for Brisbane? Is it Payne?
I think so. You take out Charlie Curnow and Wiedering out of that
Ah,
Carlton team. I fucking
then
hate
they're
Carlton,
finished.
man. Like, sorry, I fucking hate them so much. All
I
I
haven't got a
hear from
reason.
their supporters is, oh,
Listen. I haven't got a reason to hate them, Robbie. They've been fucking shit for 12 years or something
yeah,
like that. I've got no reason to hate them. But when they come out of the woodwork, like my brother-in-law Peter, he's wearing his Carlton tops, Carlton scarves. Mate, 2 years ago he was going for Gold Coast Suns, and then they come out and they want to start throwing these stats at you, and I think to myself, mate, shut the fuck up. Like, mate, you didn't
I,
know,
I'll tell you
you couldn't
something.
name
Like
three
with
players.
Carlton, it's yeah. I keep hearing, oh, no Chira, no Mackay. Now
Mm.
Mackay's back.
But what did Mackay do
No
anyway?
Welsh,
Like,
right?
honestly, what did Mackay do?
I'll tell you now. Yes, they're big outs. Chira and Welsh, very big outs. But you
Yeah.
take fucking Wiedering and Charlie Curnow out of that team, and I'll tell you now, mate, it is not the same team. And that's with any
Nah,
club
man.
in the league, not just Carlton. What, just
Mate,
having a
you
dig
take
at
out Harris
Carlton,
Andrews. Listen, you take out Harris Andrews, Payne, Charlie Cameron, and let's just
Danaher,
call it. No, not
Danaher.
Danaher. No, call him McCluggage. He's like a Jordan De Goey
Yeah.
sort of type of player. You take them four out. Let's see how well they
Or
go at
Lockie
Marvel,
Neal.
man.
Lockie Neal,
Even Lucky
like
Neal, man.
he
Lucky
was
Neal's
due for
been.
a big game, and surprise, he
But
destroyed
Robbie,
us.
listen, they hammer him in the media before they play Collingwood, right?
Yeah.
The week before they hammered not Charlie Cameron, Jeremy Cameron, right? They said, mate, he's got to do better. He kicked 1-5, this and that.
And he
And
kicked
you know
7 goals against us.
7-4 against us,
Yeah.
And I think to myself, okay, what did they do? They pumped that they got onto Lockie Neal, mate. You got to play better. You got this. What does he do? Comes out, blitzes it.
So
It's almost like Collingwood is the team that brings people or teams into fucking back into it. Like, gives them the spark.
yeah, well,
Do
like
you
I
get what
said,
I'm saying?
look at Essendon. How many points did they lose by? Over 100?
Oh,
And then
mate. Well,
the
West
media
Coast
is going
lost by
to,
130 points the week before, and they beat the Western Bulldogs.
anything's possible. But
Like, you know what I mean?
look, like all in all, at the game, the way it was played, it was almost bruise-free football. Like it
Yeah, it
didn't even
was. It
feel
was.
like it was
It was.
a
It was.
watching it
It
like
didn't
because I
feel
don't.
like a top two team, mate. I
It
tell you
didn't.
that
It didn't.
much.
It didn't feel like it was a
Well,
clash with.
look at Port versus Collingwood, man.
Yeah, that was brutal. But this
That
game
was
wasn't. This game was
brutal.
very bruise-free.
It was,
And
man. It was.
it was a weird feeling going to this game because it's sort of like I almost conceded defeat before the game even started, and I was like, I wasn't actually disappointed with the performance at all.
Yeah.
Yes, defensively we were terrible, but the positives were our forward line, like Checkers and Mycheck and McStay are starting to really you know, hit their straps
Yeah.
now. Like McStay's been good ever since he's been back, but the last 2 weeks, Mycheck, he's starting to hit the scoreboard. Jamie Elliott obviously has been unbelievable. He's kicked 36 goals this year already, and that's his
Man.
career best. And he had a really
Yep.
slow start to the season. So, and it was good to see Guinea get another game, and I hope Ginnivan stays in the team. I just
He
think
will. He will. He will.
I just think he's still still very important. The Bo McQuarrie tackle. What about BT? I heard the
Mate.
commentary, like when I watched a bit of the replay, and he's like, "What did he say?
Yeah.
Was it
That's got to be looked at.
It's got
That's
to be
got to
looked
be
at. It's a
Come on, man.
dangerous tackle. It's a
How
dangerous
the
tackle. Look,
fuck did he get a week for that?
all right, but just back to BT. He's holding a grudge against our club because in
Yeah, I know.
1990, he can't handle the fact that Lee Matthews
Mm,
fucking dropped him in the final series.
yeah,
Get
yeah,
over it, mate. It was fucking
yeah,
33 years
yeah.
ago.
They hold
Seriously.
grudges for a while, these old blokes. I mean, they got to let it go, to be honest.
And what about like opposition fans? They think BT loves Collingwood. He doesn't. He actually
Mate, he
doesn't
hates
like
them, mate.
us, right?
He
And
he just keeps calling us the manic, fast-paced Pies versus the controlled
yeah,
Brisbane Lions or the
yeah,
controlled Port Adelaide. Or
and
mate, how does this bloke get a job?
yeah,
Honestly,
yeah. I don't know. Like all in all, like this game, in the end, if you really look at it, right, Brisbane obviously are a very good side, and
yeah, they
they're
are,
gonna
man. They're
finish. They're
clean,
gonna finish top
super
two.
clean.
They're gonna finish top two. They're gonna get no a qualifying final at the Gabba, which you think they'd win. So technically, I can't see anyone beating them at the Gabba. So you'd think
Well,
they'll
who's
be
going to
there.
go there? Port Adelaide or Melbourne, obviously.
We don't know yet, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
but
going to be
at
one of
the
them two.
at the moment, it looks like you know, they've got stars on every line, Brisbane, and
Yeah.
I'll credit to them. Like they put us to the sword again, but at the same
I,
time,
I wouldn't say they put us to the sword. I
let's
mean,
see like what happens
it's
if we run
it's
into
just
them.
Robbie. If you want to know a fact, in the last 10 games, that was the second team to kick 100 points on them or more. It's
Well, yeah,
Collingwood.
talk about 100 points in the last 3 games. We've conceded 100
Yeah,
points.
I get
Now,
it, but I think, like you said, the the backline's just disjointed at the moment.
it is, and anyone's backline will be disjointed. And
Oh yeah,
the,
of
the the
course.
concerning thing about this was we actually like won the center clearances. Like we matched
Mm.
them in every area. It was the
I
turnovers
don't.
that hurt us. That's what hurt us.
I'm not panicking. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but like the media just keeps like trying to push this panic button at Collingwood, and Fly's just not. He's not taking it. Like, mate, he's been there. Man, he's won three with the best coach
He's
ever,
yeah.
best player ever. I think, and then he done it at Richmond. Man, with Lepic and all, I think he knows what he's doing, bro. Like these people in the media, they forget about what they said the week before. If you get what I'm trying to say, it's like a
Oh,
new working
oh,
week.
that's what it is. It's just clickbait for most of them,
Yeah,
especially
you know
Kane
what I mean? Like,
Corns. But the thing is, like, you know, overall, like this game, even though Brisbane won it, they won the battle, right?
mm,
But they haven't won the war because
nah,
I
far
truly
from it.
believe if we run into them if we can get to the last day in September, if we run into Brisbane at the G with our full side, I'm very confident we'll knock them off.
Man, hey,
Very,
Bobby
very
Hill's
confident.
listen, Bobby Hill, I'm telling you, his speed and he's
Oh, we
like a
missed
sort of,
him big time.
man, I'm telling you, we missed him, mate. I'm telling you,
And there's still
and
room
I,
for him and Guinea in the same team. Guinea
yeah,
can play that
no,
small
no,
forward
they
role,
can
and
play, they can play.
Hill can play like a high half forward, and he can even push
Nah,
into the midfield. Like,
no problem.
but look, with this game, in the end, um, we're in a position now where we're still on top, one game clear. We play
Mm.
Essendon on Friday night. It's a win-win situation for me. We win the minor premiership, but then we
Yep,
have to play Melbourne
yep,
in the qualifying final.
yep.
If we lose, which I just can't see happening,
Robbie, I'm just gonna cut you off quickly,
yeah,
and I have to get this off my chest. I'm telling you now, the first week of that final, when that new season starts,
it is a new season. That's correct.
there's gonna be a switch that gets flicked at the Pies. You do not win this many games and have a form as you did for 3 quarters of the season, and it just disappears. It just does not disappear. I think a lot of players have let their hair down, so to speak. Coaches probably can't do much about it. They can't drop everyone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're injured, but I just think the boys have sort of, mate, look at Friday night. You called it bruise free. It was.
It was Bruce
It
free, but it was
was. I mean,
also even the supporters, like, everyone was flat going into the game. Like, it was
mm,
like, we're
I
just waiting
think
for
people are
September.
looking.
We're waiting for
Nah,
September.
yeah, I think people listen to the media too much, and they just, yeah, you just got to really sort of get yourself out of that bubble a little bit and sort of look outside from it. And mate, I'm telling you, look at good teams don't just lose. they just don't lose their structure and balance and that killer
Yeah,
sort of instinct and then just
look,
go away. You know,
I,
you don't finish top on an AFL season and just go away. Let
yeah,
me tell you that
I
much.
think you know what it is like, and me and you have been around for a while, like at
Mm,
our age. So
mm,
I know a lot of younger Collingwood supporters, like in their early 20s, that say
yep.
to me, "Oh, you're very negative, right?" Um, so, but wait a second, and I've got uncles, right? Older uncles
Mate,
that,
yeah, yeah,
mate, I've got an uncle that witnessed 1970,
yeah,
witnessed 1977,
yeah,
witnessed 1979, 1980, 1981, right? And three of those losses were to Carlton. I think a couple of them were to Carlton. Um, and then obviously you bring in, the grand final losses in the early 2000s, the grand final
yeah.
loss to Geelong, the
Ah,
grand final loss to West Coast, all the prelim losses. Like,
yep.
people have got to understand this is trauma,
The
right?
prelim loss to the GWS
we
in
we
2019
we all
still haunts
suffer
me, man.
trauma. This club, we love this club. Like this club,
Yeah,
like literally, I'm telling you, like this club, it what happens, on game day determines my mood for the rest of the weekend. That's the honest truth. Like, you
yep,
know, I
yep.
I've everything's on hold. Everything in my life, is on hold until after this footy
Yep.
season because I smell it. I smell a flag with this team. It's just
Yeah.
the only thing that's worrying me, and I think the only thing that's disappointing me at the moment, and I mentioned it like a couple of weeks ago. I said by round 24, we need to be cherry ripe going into September, but injuries are piled up,
There's,
and I think that's where the frustration lies. Like,
but there's 3 weeks, Robbie.
yeah, they've still got a couple of weeks to go. Like,
There's three
that's
weeks, bro.
100%.
Like, fuck. I mean, you got this week, which I think they're going to rest a lot of players, to be honest,
Oh no,
and still
they
get the
will. They will.
and still get the job done,
Yeah,
right? And then they got the bye, and then they got another week till they like call it 4 or 5 days before they even play again. That's nearly 3 weeks,
yeah.
right? Oh, man, I'm telling you.
See, it's hard to even like preview Friday night's game because it's so early in the week.
Yeah,
For us to sit here and say who comes in, who goes out. I like to, like I said, it's too early in the week because we've seen what happens in the last couple of weeks. Like
yep.
things happen unexpectedly, and
Mm,
um, we get like pretty much, um, we're in a situation now where, like I said, it's a win-win situation. We beat Essendon, we win the minor premiership, um, and we obviously will get that Friday night. More than likely, it'll be Friday night versus Melbourne.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, Melbourne is the type of team that, yeah, they'll keep you in the game. They don't have power forwards. They're just a very strong defensive unit with the best ruckman in the league with a very, very good midfield.
yeah.
So if against Melbourne, if we were to break even in the contested possessions and clearances like we did against Brisbane, we win. It's as simple as that.
Oh,
We
yeah,
we
yeah,
we
yeah,
win
yeah.
that game, right?
Yep.
What you don't want
But
is to lose that first qualifying final and then have to run into Carlton the week after, because that's who you're more than likely going to run into if you lose that first final. And then that
oh,
means,
Robbie, don't say
yeah,
that. You say that, my anxiety levels go
yeah,
fucking through the
that's what I
roof.
mean. But this is trauma. Like I said, I'm not being negative. I truly believe our best is the best. Like we are the best team in the league.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, unfortunately, literally the last 3 to 4 weeks, it's been a bit of a lot's happened. You know what I mean? And but I saw
There's a lot.
enough on Friday night to see, all right, if Brisbane's supposed to be the second best team in the league, with who we had out to
Mm.
still play with that
Didn't we kick?
spirit.
Didn't we kick like 5 goals on the trot and come to like 4 points? I think it was, or
Oh,
something
look,
like
I
that.
said I have no issues whatsoever with the performance.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just more very concerned about why we didn't rest players in the middle of the season when we had a chance. Like
Mm,
that's what I'm a bit concerned about. And you got to remember, Fly played under Lee Matthews. Lee Matthews was traditionally like he was he didn't believe in resting players. Yeah, so
no.
maybe Fly and Lepic have got the same mentality. Like
Yeah.
they're looking at
Does Murphy play this week?
no, I wouldn't play Murphy. Like you said, I'd bring in Roscoe if you need to bring in anyone. Drop
Was
Hal
it a
back.
was it a corky on the butt, or what happened?
I'm not sure, but that guy always manages to hurt himself, but he always manages to get up. But it would be stupid to play him this week. Like we need him cherry ripe for the qualifying final. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I fuck. I think about our back line, and I just, against the Cats, Moore was doing things in the first quarter which I've never seen before. And I rang my brother and I said, mate, is Moore like he looks lost, you know? And 2 minutes later, he's grabbing his hamstring.
Yeah, he was lost leading up to like I said, he looked
It's almost
lost.
like he done his hamstring in the
He
warm
looked
up, to be
lost
honest.
against
I think.
Hawthorn.
Yeah,
He looked lost against Carlton. Do you know what I
yep,
mean? So
yep,
maybe this break's gonna do him the world of good. Like
yeah, I think so.
that's
Look,
the
I'm telling
that's
you,
the bottom
Robbie,
line.
I'm telling you, bro, we look at it as we do for a long time in our lives, but for some reason, the last couple of weeks, taken a step back and I've said to myself, like the players after the game, like we're laughing after a loss. And I've never seen that. I've never seen that. Not at Collingwood. I'm telling you. Hoskin
Yeah,
Elliott's laughing. Pendlebury was smiling. Chris was smiling. Howe was having a joke with Pendlebury. So on and so forth. And I thought to myself, you know what? These blokes have either like have really put the cue in the rack and are going to get really sort of primed for the first week of finals. That's the way I feel, Rob. I just feel like they're just whoever they play. I think they're just going to strangle them. Yeah, I'm just telling you, they're just gonna
well, look,
strangle.
like I said, that's what I'm hope. That's what I'm hanging my hat on, and I think the
Yeah.
whole Collingwood army is like we're
No,
all hoping that we're just gonna flick this
nah, I'm not
switch.
hoping. I'm not hoping. I genuinely think. I don't think the switch is off, man. Like I said to you, barring from the injuries, which is unfortunate because when you go soft, you get hurt
Yeah,
in
that's what
any
happens.
physical game.
And also there was this interesting stat where apparently the last team was St Kilda in 2009, where they actually like finished on top, and with about
Mm,
6 games to go, we're already like their top 4 spot was already signed and sealed. Their top
yeah,
2 spot was like signed and sealed. So they're literally
yeah,
like managing for the rest of the season.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
They just played a
as most seasons, you're
damn good
playing
game.
for something. Like Brisbane is
Yeah.
playing for second spot this week.
Mm,
Melbourne and Port are playing for second spot, hoping Brisbane slips up. St Kilda's
yeah.
playing.
Who's Brisbane playing?
Brisbane's playing the Saints at the Gabba. But mate, with Ross Lyon, anything can happen. So Brisbane wins that game, but St Kilda's not.
Yeah, I
St
wouldn't
Kilda's
be
trying to
too
get a home.
sure.
St Kilda's trying to get a home final, right?
Yeah,
So they're going to be playing out of their skin because they're going to more than likely be playing Sydney. So it's either they're going to play Sydney in Melbourne or they're going to play
yep,
Sydney in Sydney. If they want to play
yep,
Sydney in Melbourne, more than likely will be at Marvel, unless they move the game to the G. Then St Kilda's going to have to go to Brisbane and beat them. Now,
yep.
who knows what can happen? Brisbane might drop the game on the weekend. We don't know what's going to happen.
You
All I
don't
know
know.
is we can only control what we can control, and that is to make sure and we go out and put a performance in against Essendon. Doesn't matter who gets selected, and you expect a response from the Bombers. The only thing that
Yeah,
concerns me going into this game is obviously Peter Wright and Langford. Those two are they're going to be very hard to match up on with who we have out in
yeah,
our
but
back
you know
line.
what? Just smash him in the midfield, and the ball won't go there.
100%. They look cooked. And I expect to win and win well. But
Yep,
like I said, I
yep,
don't want to really touch on that game. We've only got a couple minutes left. But Age,
yep,
before we'll finish it off with a bang, mate. What the
yep,
fuck is going on in the AFL with these decisions, man? Like
yep.
we saw what happened against Geelong, the Jeremy Cameron mark out on the full, the handball out of the ground, and then in
Mm,
the space of a week, you've seen um, Adelaide get robbed. That was a fucking
fucking
clear
hell,
goal. And
that was
then
fucked.
there was the Hawthorn Melbourne game yesterday where the Melbourne player was 1 metre out of bounds and the umpire just waved play on, and the umpire was right there. So we've only got about 3 minutes to go. So I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
let
yeah.
you have the dig this week, mate. I just want to hear you have a dig.
Mate, I've been saying this for fucking years. This is $1 billion industry. Make no mistake about it, right? I mean, we've got the biggest sponsors in Australia fucking pouring money into this business. Now, people got to realize this is a business, right? Now, how can you not have full-time umpires for starters? Every major league around the world, EPL, uh, NFL, NHL, NBA, so on and so forth, they're all full-time employed. That's all they that's all they do. They study the game. They can feel a sense for the game. You watch it, man. You watch these umpires, and EPL referees. They talk to each other like men, right? There's a massive disconnect, I think, from like I said, it's like a policed sort of umpiring state, if that makes sense. It's hard to explain, but billions of dollars, a guy behind the fucking Adelaide goal with a Samsung or iPhone, whatever, had a better view of it going through than what they have in the, is it called the Arc? The Arc?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think so.
they
Yeah.
have, they have, this guy off his phone had a better view than the Arc had on their whole fucking 7 monitors, 8 monitors with the guy up there, you know, pushing their buttons but that's not the problem. The problem is the umpire, the goal umpire, called it a behind. Therefore, it cannot be reviewed, nor if it was a goal, or how can I explain it? The actual umpires cannot sort of say, hold on, let's go up to the arc because I think that went in actually.
Oh,
Like
you know what happened? The Sydney player just played on,
I know
and
that. I know that.
and then it sort of like they didn't review it. And
Yeah,
then
they can't review it. They
yeah.
can't, but not even the umpire can overturn the goal umpire. He cannot say,
No, he
hey, I
can't.
think
It
that was,
goes to
I
umpire.
think
Yeah,
that
the
was a point because
umpire's
he
decision.
pushes his little button on his ear, and he could say, "Can I score review? Just making sure that was touched on the line." They can say that, right?
Yeah.
Why can't he say, "Score review? I think that was a goal, but just make sure the goal umpire was right." It takes 2 seconds,
Yeah,
bro.
it
2
didn't
seconds,
happen, but it cost Adelaide the game.
but it never happens.
Yeah. But anyway, mate, there's
That's the
nothing
way
we
it
can
is.
do about it, but we got to
Nope.
call it a night.
Yes, sir.
Paige, thanks for joining me tonight.
No worries, bro. Anytime,
And
anytime.
I look forward to having you back on a future episode of Talking Collingwood.
Yeah, thanks, Robbie.
And to all the listeners, click the subscribe button if you haven't, and comment below. Until next time, go the Pies.